guys, welcome to Chef Grace's Place. Today I have a great guest. His name is Thom, and he is from the Pizzeria and Enzo podcast, which you can find on wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, that kind of thing. So we were just shooting the shit, so I was like, I gotta press record, Thom.
I like it. I am good with that.
I forgot what we were talking about, coffee, but
we were talking coffee. Just how did you run? The question really was about the platform.
Oh, so yeah, for those guys listening, just because I found this and I found this a couple days ago and it's really helping me out. If you have your own podcast, and they're not paying me, but maybe they will one day.
Hey, I like it. I like it.
Matchmaker.fm, and I've found a lot of great people not using this, but I really want to get more episodes out there per week, and this is a service. It's kind of like Match.com for podcasting. It's like it helps you find guests, and also shows find you to be on a show. So if you have a podcast, check it out. So basically, this is kind of, I guess this is an announcement for the people listening too. In July, I'm going to be training. I'm going back to the skies. So I'm going to be flying around. I got to go do some flight attendant training. And I'm going to be gone for a month. So I wanted to make sure I had content. And I was like, I was trying to find people like just going through YouTube channels. So I found this website somehow, and I immediately was like, all right, it's got to be a little, at least because sometimes I'll reach out to people on YouTube or, social media or whatever, and they're not necessarily looking to be on a podcast. You know what I mean? So
Yes,
this was great because at least I know they wanted to be a guest on something,
That is about your audience. So really, it's just funny if you say it like that. If people don't want to be on a podcast, the funny thing you just said, Grace, is that when I looked at contacting people that were on there as guests, like, oh, we're really not doing this. Like, well, take your stuff down, man, and relax.
Yeah. And so I basically put in the food category, and I went through, I think, like 17 pages of profiles, just
Nice.
trying to figure out, because you guys are like, people I picked, I was like, this is like the top 10%, because some people on there are just like a dating app. 10% of them are probably something you're interested in.
Yeah. The rest of the people, they're just mailing it in.
Yeah. So I found your podcast through that, and then I listened to a couple episodes.
Thank you.
And I was like, yeah, this sounds fun. But I have a question for you. Your name is Thom, but your podcast is called the Pizzeria and Enzo. So, and your first episode is about the strudel waffle.
Yes.
Where's the pizzeria?
It is a bizarre. The simple fun explanation, which I prefer, is the Pizzeria and Enzo show came about after a conversation with a number of my friends about various and sundry topics. And at the end of some of those conversations, I made a decision that I was only going to be around, best I can, of course, I was only going to be around people that were action takers, right or wrong, good or bad, people that actually will do something. I'll put you into that category now, Grace, because you sent me a note. I replied, I'm an action taker. You replied, boom. I said, okay, we're in the same tribe. I'm going to talk to Grace. And here we are less than 48 hours later, chatting from no telling where we are to, having fun on a podcast. So the way that the name came about is out of respect to a person that is one of my very best buddies, and her name is Soraya. She's a marketing media ad person, great person. We live in the same town, been around each other for a long time in the restaurant business. And I was on the way over to meet with her for some of my clients. And I went to Siri and I said, "Hey, Siri, text Soraya and tell her I'll be there in a minute." And Siri's trying to do that. She's trying to send a note to Soraya right now. So we're going to say no on that. So that's funny. So that's Siri. We're trying to. So she said, "Hi, Pizzeria. THom will be there in a minute." So Siri changed the name to Pizzeria from Soraya, which I get it. That's an easy one. The secondary part of it is the first time I met Soraya was at an oyster festival. We got there, it was probably 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And the other guy that was supposed to be with me is a wonderful guy his name is Enzo. And he's a chef around here, has been around for a long time. Great, great guy. And as people like us do, we tend to go with the moment, and got there and met these two people. Enzo was not there yet. And Soraya said, "Oh, you must be Enzo." So I didn't tell them different. So for 10 years, they have called me Enzo just because I played that joke for the whole day and had people calling me Enzo. And it was just goofing around. So that story culminates in that text to Soraya. And it came back. I said, "Hey, we should do a podcast together called the Pizzeria and Enzo Show," because it was two names that were totally goofy. We laughed crazy about it. And within about 15 minutes, Soraya had already done the logo and sent it to me. You get me? That's a person that acts. That's a person I want to hang around. So I have kept this. She has not been on the podcast yet. She's a very busy person. And so that's how the Pizzeria and Enzo name came about. It was just in fun. The third part about it that is important is that it doesn't name me. It is a concept about people. So in a show that I do, generally as on the Enzo side of it, I'll talk to people that are action oriented people, primarily in the food and beverage business, that are action takers. And that is how the crazy name came to be. It stuck. It was in honor of action. And to finish that last part, you asked about Joe with the stroopwafel. A great friend of mine, Corey Jackson in Columbia, former football player, has a friend named John who owns a stroopwafel company. They sent me stroopwafels. So in honor of taking action in that November, I went and had coffee with Joe Petty. He's an amazing speaker. You should definitely talk to him. He's an amazing speaker, an amazing guy, has a terrific message. And so the first podcast we did in a coffee shop, horrible sound, horrible equipment, everything's not like it was supposed to be. But Grace, it was taking action. I'm a speaker by nature, and I was so nervous. Joe was nervous. He speaks for a living. And so we said, "Hey, we're on to something here. Is this the action of taking action?" And that in 148 words is how the deal came about.
That's awesome. I love stroopwafels too. I would go
there. So did you do the one where you sat it on the coffee and let it melt, let it heat into the coffee?
Yeah, because
that's crazy.
The airline I used to work for was Norwegian Airlines. So
perfect.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stroopwafels in that area because they're all close together. But they're the best, man. And they make them like the perfect size to put right on the cup too. It's cool.
Somebody thought of that. Somebody was sitting around over in Norwegia or wherever Norway is, and said, "Hey, let's make this and make it the exact size cup of the coffee." So it was fun. I appreciate you.
Cold and dark. They got a free time over there.
I guess so.
So
thank you for asking me that question, Grace. I appreciate that. I don't get to tell that story much, but I enjoy it because it was so much fun coming up with it.
Yeah, that's a great story. So you mentioned you work in the restaurant industry. What do you do in the restaurant industry?
I work primarily as a representative for manufacturers and work primarily with the regional chains. That would be, I call them kind of micro chains at 3 to 25. Really, getting to 25 is a tremendous task. 17, 18, 19 is about the limit of many of them. So I work with regional manufacturers to help regional food service restaurant chains. I help them find suitable substitutes for their highest volume items that results in a cost savings, or it creates a new item for them, or it reinforces their supply chain. And that's what I get to do every day, is help people find replacements for French fries and beans and
You really
stuff like
need to
that.
be a good communicator for that. Sourcing is one of the hardest things to do in a restaurant.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I have gained over this last 18 months, I have gained a deep respect for communicating without me being in the room, because I rely a lot on my energy level in a room to communicate. But finding out what people in procurement and supply chain actually do, having to have them describe what it is that they need. I have a newfound, not that it was not a respect before, Grace, but I have a new understanding, almost not necessarily an insight, but something new that I was not expecting to find out about people that are in procurement and supply chain. It is a stressful, it's a lot of fun when you find stuff.
Yeah, when
But
you
when you
find
don't find
stuff,
stuff, yeah, it
but it's
sucks.
hard because sometimes, when a few places, all the places I worked where I had to do sourcing, I was always trying to do it locally, organically, and sustainably. But the problem with that is you work with a lot of small people, and they can't always keep up with the demand. So,
That
the
is,
placement is key
oh my
because
gosh,
you
that
gotta,
is a dilemma.
but then it's also hard because it's not like if I had two people I was getting, you know, butter from or something, right? I can't just have the one guy as my backup guy because he's going to be like, what the fuck? You only use me when it's an emergency. I don't, and then you're low on
Yes,
the priority list. So there's so many things that like people who go eat at a restaurant, like you're not even thinking about that.
they're not. They would never guess. It's that most people would never guess how stuff actually made it from the, I don't even say from the farm, maybe from the farmer's idea to the end result that, they were eating, elephant ear garlic. Like, where did that come from? California. Where do you think it came from? It came from Gilroy. And then it just jumped on a truck and traveled across the country and went to Publix and the Teeter.
Have you ever
And then
been
we ate
to
it.
Gilroy? Have you ever
Say
been
again?
have you ever been to Gilroy?
Yes, I
Yeah.
have. That's the only reason I was going to drop that in there, because after you go to the garlic festival in time,
Yep.
you're they
I
like the
feel
garlic
like
there.
I could do. I was I was a little disappointed in their garlic ice cream. I'm not gonna lie. They didn't.
Yeah,
They
it's a
could have been way better. They could have they just put the raw garlic in it, and I was like, if they caramelized the garlic and then roasted it and then put it in the ice cream,
it could
that
be.
actually would have been good.
I could have done it. Well, so maybe we need to start a new ice cream brand called
Maybe
Garlic. Spell it
garlic.
with a K or something like that, so we don't have to pay Gilroy for the principal.
Maybe, but well,
Maybe,
it
or
was really
not.
good.
Or,
They had
yes.
they had a lot of cool stuff though, like the every fries,
It's
everything
a
covered
fun.
in garlic.
It is fun to go to those, because most, I say most again, any of us don't realize about a particular item until you've gone and seen that there's not just garlic. I mean, there are many different types of garlics and many varieties of garlics that it's sort of, I liken it to people that my background is bakery. That's kind of my
Oh,
background. So I pick at people. It's one of the only fussy things I really do about food is picking at people that use a recipe for cookies and underbake them so they'll be soft, rather than using a proper recipe to bake proper cookies that are properly soft. And that's the same thing with garlic.
What's your background in bakery?
As a baker, I'll tell you what.
How'd you get started in baking?
Yeah,
Let's do it that way.
Yeah, that goes all the way back to spinnakers and making learning to mix bread and make it in the flower pots. I don't know if it was a big time years ago when everybody was doing bread in flower pots, and that's where I learned to bake. I was
never heard of that. And what is spinnaker?
Yes. Oh my gosh, baking bread in a flower pot. If you happen to look up baked bread in a flower pot, a clay flower pot you get at the Lowe's.
Yeah. Super
cool presentation, amazing way to do it. And because it's a natural way, you can reuse it. And it gives it I don't know if it's just the way that it heats up, meaning physically as it bakes, or I don't know if there's a chemical reaction. I've never even checked to see between the clay but it does make a beautiful loaf of bread that looks just like a inverted flower pot.
Was this a commercial production, or you?
Yeah, it was. It was a chain. It was a chain that had a bakery in the front of it called Spinnakers. It was from Charlotte, North Carolina, and that's where I started baking. It ended up I did a lot of work with Rich Products out of Buffalo for a long time, which is primarily a bakery, dairy company.
Buffalo,
and then
New York?
Yeah, Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
New York. And Rich Products is a very cool company. And the last thing I did when I moved to Charleston is I went to work with the chef Tim Armstrong with Maverick Southern Kitchens, and he let me kind of have free reign to bake and garde manger as much as I wanted. And then from there I went to Charleston Place, which at the time was one of the Orient Express, and worked with Chris Ryan, Chef Chris Ryan is still there. He's still there, and with Emily and several other chefs around town. So that's where I got to bake. It was fun. I got paid for it, and it was fun. And I got my weight. I got to do the weight roller coaster from baking and eating, because you got to eat the stuff. Great.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, my specialty is pastry, so I worked in a lot of that's my degree. So I worked in a lot of pastry kitchens and stuff. But I found that as a pastry chef, you're always doing your orders in quantity of 300 dinner rolls, something like that.
Yes.
And you can't sneak half of a dinner roll. Someone's going to notice, you know what I mean? Because everything is exact weight. So I found that I was always unless you're doing recipe testing where you're tasting and stuff like that, everything was down to the margins. So you made it the exact amount. So the pastry chefs were always skinnier than the culinary chefs, because the culinary chef, you could sneak a noodle or something off a dish. Nobody's going to know. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Do that 50 times in a night. You ate a bullet pasta.
Yeah. I can see with that. I just didn't. My experience was I was able to sneak, I guess, that roll or something. I don't know. Maybe it made a little extra because I can measure.
The cookie dough you can get away with.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. I don't know if I've ever eaten cookie dough. Yeah, cookie dough is the best. I don't even know why we bake it anyway.
I mean, honestly, sometimes it's better. Especially I put a lot of I like to put Baileys and amaretto and stuff in my cookies. So it does taste a lot better before you bake it. Yeah,
I'm with you. I'm a glazer. I prefer to add the flavors after the baking, just for the way that I like the texture of things I like. Not that it makes it any different, just that I feel like I have better results with my stuff putting those sort of things on after. And but I'm gonna try it. As soon as it cools down, I'm gonna start baking again, and I'm gonna try that. I'll have to get a recipe from you and let you know how it tastes, or so I'll just mail you some cookies in the mail. That's a thing now. I don't know if you know that. They mail cookies. I know. All the time now.
I used to. I ran a cookie and brownie business for a little bit that was just online, so there's a lot of mailing. A lot of mailing.
Yeah.
But
Did you have a lot of customers? Did you have specific customers that you had, or did you have specific like just general customers different every week, or did you have a set of customers that you served all the time with a cookie and brownie company?
it was mainly like there was a lot of like online, just like online orders, like birthdays, like not like consistent like every week or anything, but then we would
Mhm.
get like business orders. So
Nice.
like if like a bank one time like a bank wanted to do like 4,000 tins for their
Holy cow.
Christmas, so that was 40,000 cookies that were hand scooped by 5 people.
Nice.
that was that wasn't a that was like, whew.
That was
But,
extreme.
yeah, it was
That
an
was extreme.
yeah,
It,
exactly.
de- it definitely is.
Um,
Makes me hungry for cookies all of a sudden.
but we got it down. We got it done. But yeah. But anyway, so now you are sourcing. We're talking about coffee, so now you're sourcing coffee.
Yeah. Well, just when we I do work as a what we call a food broker in the food service side. It's a lot of people know food brokers just from the retail side and setting up stores and things like that. But as a food broker, um, you can represent a number of different types of companies, and that way you're able to leverage your number of touches. So when you're working with a big company and they are looking for coffee and you have a coffee source, then you can make that connection. Oftentimes it is contractual. Many other times it is by the instance, meaning just making the connections. But that is at a higher level, or I'd say maybe closer to the ground level, tactical. Working as a food broker is in a huge state of flux right now because just insert COVID story. We don't have to say that anymore.
Yeah.
But it's a different world now, and we have. I am fortunate to be teamed up with a bunch of great people that we have put our efforts together to have a company that is able to serve the interests of manufacturers. I'm trying not to get too commercial about that because it's
Well, it just seems like it would tie in perfectly to what you're doing with your podcast because, the people that really stand out with these small businesses, if they don't have the
yes.
money to market and, they could be heard. And, a lot of people that expect, like everyone buys things online now. So even if that brand gets popular outside of wholesale, and people start
Mm-hmm.
demanding it, then it works for you because then you can source it for the
Yeah,
stores
that is.
that need it,
Yeah, and that is a side. I'm going to say not a side benefit, but that can be a benefit if I make the connection. There is another side of this where I am able to actually help somebody without an expectation from them. So with all the people that I've got lined up, I have, just like you, I've got so many people lined up to be on the show, and many of them are that that under $300,000 in sales range, which is a small, definitely an SMB. And the thing that's neat for me is I am able to do, and this is being very personal, that it allows me to give truly of myself and help somebody without an expectation of anything from them.
Yeah.
And it makes it fun. It allows me to be me, allows me to be fun, allows me to be goofy and have fun, but it also allows me to have a serious conversation with a person like you, that we're in the same tribe. You know what I'm talking about, because I know from talking to you now and just a little bit we've talked, I know you do that already. I know that you help people already, and you do things for people without an expectation of any, not even a side benefit, but just you do it because that's what's in our heart for
And I'm
doing
also
stuff. I don't mean to make that
well, I'm a strong believer that like the rising tide lifts all ships, you know? So if someone else is doing good, that doesn't mean that it's gonna make me do bad. You know, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, oh yeah, that is so true. That is a good. There's a neat fella that's on one of my episodes, Rocco, and he has he is working diligently to get to be an influencer, if you will, or just a respected expert in the wine field, and he's really putting it out there, giving it all he's got. And we talked. He said, "Well, I really don't." And I was like, "Rocco, man, you're a great guy. Let's do this and see. No telling who listens to what. Kind of any given Sunday kind of idea."
Well, actually, in a couple hours, I'm going to be interviewing him. I saw that and I was like, I listened to it like
that is great.
I reached out to him and I was like, oh man, 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm going to learn about both these guys.
It is cool. That is cool. He is a very neat guy. He's working really hard. You'll be able to tell once you start talking to him, he's an easy guy to talk to, and bravo for you to talk to him. And any of the people that are of the episodes that you see published of mine, any of those guys or you will enjoy, because I kind of the fun part. I only pick people that are fun. I don't have any like hard podcasts because like I could tell from our conversations when we were texting. It's like, yeah, she's nice. I like her. We're going to have, fun. We may not get to the point with me, but we're still going to have fun. It's how it works.
Well,
we do.
Yeah. Well, you're like, I see it as like a curator of interesting people. Like that's,
thank you.
What I mean? So like I was listening to, I was listening to it and then I went on a rabbit hole because you were talking about the tea garden in Charleston.
Yes. That was with Doug. That was with Doug, the food guy.
Yeah. And I was like, this is like, I had no idea we grew tea in America. I had no idea. And I was like, this is so cool. And I I went on a rabbit hole with that. I had your podcast on and I'm like researching, like, where is this? I want to go here.
It's fun. Did you find now when you get up here? I mean, it's it's up in the plantations in Somerville.
Sorry. For our listeners, THom is in South Carolina. So
I am indeed
in Charleston, right?
Charleston. That's it. Down in Charleston.
Okay. So I've never been to either of the Carolinas. So one day.
I get you. Well, there's only one. There's also one up north of us, but the only one that we talk about is the South Carolina. And we're still mad about the Panthers putting their stadium in North Carolina. So we're, which that's just a total side joke. It's not really true. Nobody cares.
Well, it's like I'm from New Jersey, so we always talk about South Jersey isn't even like it's still one like state, but like the North and the South are like like if you say pork roll, I'm like South Jersey over there.
Well, that's
ham, so it's the same thing.
That's awesome. Well, I got to go to New Jersey, I guess 2018, and was expecting, just like my guys that I work with, I was expecting bridges and tunnels. That's all I was expecting to see. It was, I guess, just industrial. And it was, New Jersey was, we were in the town of, I don't remember the name of the town, but it was not near, I guess it was closer to the coast, but it was so beautiful. The land was so green, more cows than I've seen in a long time. And in the fields and everybody there was just as sweet and nice as you would expect somebody to be. And so I have a good heart for whatever part of New Jersey I was in. Everybody was sweet to me, and it was a beautiful, beautiful place. I can see why everybody calls it the Garden State, I guess.
Yeah, and many people, because most people.
I hope that's New Jersey.
It is, yeah, it is New Jersey, but it's to me it's one of the most densely populated states, but pretty much all that density is right by, crossing the bridge to Manhattan,
Gotcha.
So that section, and then like from there it kind of, peters out, and then you get farmland in the like high north, and you get farmland in the south. And then you also, same thing like when you have Atlantic City, you have like a high concentration of people. But it's very, to me, I didn't realize like how lucky I was to kind of have all these different terrains, because it's not like it was just, mountain or desert or whatever. It was, you had the beach, you had farming areas, and you had urban areas. So you kind
Yeah,
of
we didn't get to go to the beach. We were
best
in
of everything.
Vineland, New Jersey. Vineland, New Jersey? Vineland?
That's
It's it was somewhere on the boonies. We were near Bridgeton. I'm totally without.
I think that's
We're not near Philadelphia. I know that. So
okay.
anyway, enough of that. It was
Cool.
beautiful. Nevertheless, it was a beautiful, beautiful place.
That's cool.
And everybody was nice. And it was a bakery too. So I got to, it was fun.
That's
Went to a
awesome.
bakery.
Did you I was gonna say, so what is, like, I always learn so many things from my guests. So what were like the most surprising things you've learned so far from your guests?
Oh my gosh. That is, I'm surprised where people are from. I mean, I would have, I when I talk to someone and ask them, as I've done with you, asking, where are you from? Because you're not in New Jersey.
Yeah.
That is a thing that I have enjoyed asking people is, where do you call home? Where are you from? Where are your mom and dad from? That sort of a thing. And when Steve Toniolo, I was in Florence, South Carolina, and did his podcast, and his mom and dad were from Italy, like Italian Italy, and they moved to America right at the end of World War II and met here in Philadelphia is where they met.
All right.
And then they moved to down to Florence, South Carolina, years and years later, and have an Italian restaurant. And it's it's kind of made in. I got to meet his dad. His dad was in his late, maybe early 90s. Super neat guy. Still had a straight up accent, and but that's kind of a neat thing I have learned about people, is where they're actually from. That's the first thing that came to mind to me, is where people are from, because it's kind of cool where people are from, I think, anyway.
I think so. I mean, that's why I like to fly around the world and talk to people. But
that is one way to do it. So you probably see like people like from like 100 companies, 100 countries, like every time you get on a plane. You probably see people from literally everywhere, every day.
mean, not every day, but
Okay.
Then it's like, it's really interesting too. One of the things I like, you ever like hear about something and you're like, of course that's a thing, but you just like never thought about it,
Tell me example of that.
So like I was having a discussion with one of my colleagues about like I grew up in a very like Italian American neighborhood. So everyone's like, I'm Italian, and I always thought like you always had that. It was almost like your culture, like even if you were born in America, you were still very proud about being Italian. But when you leave America, you're an American, So
Yes.
I was wondering like that's kind of like a weird thing. And I was talking to one of my colleagues about it, who was from South America, and was like, yeah, that's kind of weird. But then another colleague came in, and he was from Argentina, but he identified as Italian because he was from a community where they immigrated to Argentina from Italy. So the culture was very different it wasn't very different, but it was different than the Spanish culture. So he had that same, like just how we kind of have like that Italian American mentality, they had that Italian Argentinian mentality. And I was like, well, that's like really like, it's weird because you're kind of like, you're taking out like that one base too, because I always wondered like, is the the boisterousness of being, I'm Italian, actually, is that an American trait or is that an Italian trait?
So did you find that to be true? Was the guy, was he from your tribe? Did you recognize him automatically from his background?
No. Well, also like I'm from like my family is from like northern Italy, so
Okay.
like most of the Italian American community from where I was from southern Italy.
Okay.
But you know, if you have a Spanish accent and you look Italian, you also look Spanish. You know what I mean? You could also be Spanish.
That's,
so, so I was, but then, you know, but then it was cool too because a lot of people I grew up with, they spoke English, but they also spoke Italian. But he, because, you know, pretty much every other country besides America is going to teach you their native language and English. So everyone's bilingual. But he was trilingual, so he could speak Italian, Spanish, and English, and that was
wow. That
so.
is I bet that'd be I was going to say that's a mouthful to try to say, like, speak. I can't imagine keeping that straight in my brain. Not to be selfish about the comment, but I'm trying to think, oh, what am I? Because I wonder if you can hear yourself speaking, you know, because you're thinking in your brain, what are you thinking? Are you thinking in Spanish, speaking in Italian? Are you thinking Italian, speaking English? It's got to be confusing.
Yeah,
I'll never learn, but it sounds fun.
I've been trying to learn Spanish for the past like 15 years. Like, so I don't know. I'm getting better at it, but I definitely I remember like thinking in Spanish for like one sentence about
Nice.
having to like take my dog out when I was a kid, and like
That's weird.
what I got. But
Take my dog out. I thought in Spanish.
yeah, I thought it
That's
was Spanish. I didn't even have to try. But then after I did that, I was like, well, like how many like then the concept of like thinking in another language like blew my mind, you know? And I was like,
that's
whoa.
kind of like language inception. Like you just like get wrapped up. And
Yeah, but
of
it's
course,
like
like
it's crazy that that's like normal for so many people, you know? And it's something that
it's normal for a lot of people.
yeah,
They
that I
have a
would
lot of different languages.
you know. But yeah, but it was cool.
That is
So
fun. Something else I found, like when you ask about the guests, the kind of the secondary part of it, I think would be how they came to do what they do. And I'm starting to see that there is either, and I don't mean to be binary about it, but it seems that they were either got on that path and they were on it, period. That's where they were going, or they were an architect and then they learned, you know, they went and ate something and liked wine. And next thing you know, they have a winery. So that's and maybe that is just the human nature of everything, that you can be, you know, both on a path and on a separate. But that's another part about finding how people came to do what they do, how they got there, or how they, or wherever they are now. Because, you know, you never know where you're going to be in 18 months. But that's another kind of a fun part, find out how people got to be where they are.
that's one of the things I love about the food industry is that it's people from like all walks of life.
Oh
Like,
my
you know,
gosh.
and because food is something everyone can relate to. So everyone can get interested in it because you got to eat, you know? And one of the things that being one of those people that was like, I know this is what I want to do, you know what I mean? Um, I learned so much from, you know, it's both like, I think when I was going through it, I was like, this is kind of lame because I'm not really getting like the full college experience. You would think that like in you know in culinary school like the parties would be awesome because everybody knows how to cook, but like so much of the student population is people starting second careers, so it's not like it's not like your average college, but well, some of the parties were really good.
I bet so. I
When-
bet so. At
but
least having an eating party.
oh yeah, potlucks are amazing. But there was the one thing that I found very like helpful as like a person was that meeting these people with the second careers and stuff, you began to realize like a lot of people that I grew up with or just talk to, like they identify their identity is what they do and not necessarily like who they are. So when you come across these people
Oh
that have
yeah.
changed careers so much, they become Jack or they become Stephanie. They're not just, I'm a chef or I'm an accountant, So it was really cool to see people like it's almost, it's a totally different mindset and a way to live. So I think so many people, because of the pandemic, are going through that kind of like identity crisis and change in life. And I think that's actually probably more beneficial that your life isn't centered around your work anymore. you know?
You've got to have other things to do. That's you made a terrific point there, that you've got to have I don't mean you have to diverge away from whatever your chosen goals are, but you have to be flexible enough to say, hey, I might need to do something else because this ain't working out.
Well, I also think it brings up so much, so many things that you can do that you didn't think, like that are just like fun. Like this is fun, like.
Yes.
But if I was like, no, I'm only a chef, I'm not a podcast host, like then I wouldn't do it.
That's I appreciate so much that you said that way, because I have laughed thinking, imagine, remember I told you Chef Tim Armstrong down in Florida, got an amazing business, a hybrid chef. And that's not a promotion. He's just a great guy. And it is a great company and offering to his community, and the hybrid chef that, talking about action takers. I said to him, just like me and you talking, just chatting it up. And I said, Tim, you need to get a camera and put it up here at the end of your table, and you need to start recording your stuff. And he's like, no, man, I don't want to do that. I got like 700 other things to do. I was like, whatever, that's no excuse. I won't accept it. And he got a camera and started recording stuff. And it is just classic when he does that. When he records kind of it's not fast motion, Grace, it's kind of like stop motion, where it's taking the picture every couple of seconds. I'm having trouble with the English on that one. What is it called? The time lapse. I think you call it time lapse.
Oh, okay.
And when he posts that, it is amazing. Speaking of content, and he's not doing it for any other reason. That's what he's doing anyway. He's recording it, and we laugh because he has to beep out a lot of things for some reason in the kitchen. I'm not sure why, but he beeps a lot of things.
First, like sailors in the kitchen. That's why
they do. That is a fun part of the culture, is using having the potty mouth and letting it stay there.
High stress situation, like you got it.
Yeah, it is. It definitely gets high stress. I have missed. I'm going to say I missed that. Is not really true. I miss completing a shift. Just like when you're finished with your mise en place, you got everything set up, and you get to that point, Grace, when you can hear the printer go off before the printer goes off, and that it's starting and you're fixing to go into the shift, and then you're so deep in the weeds and then you got that last 45 minutes where you're just trying to push through and drinking bourbon and saying bad words. I never did that. My friends did, but in the kitchen.
Yeah, I couldn't. Like I wouldn't be able to get shit done efficiently if I started drinking. But and also being like a pastry station, like mine was always like the fire would start on the line, on the apps. I would help out with apps because nobody was, ordering dessert when apps were coming in. Unless sometimes we had some people come in just for dessert once in a while, like in a blue moon. But I would help out with the salads and stuff because a lot of times they were shucking oysters, which I
Mhm.
can't do that because I'm allergic. But
That,
they,
that's important. That's important to know that.
yeah. So, but they wouldn't be done. Like if they weren't done with their prep and like people started coming in, like I would, I would do some of the salads and stuff because I'd be done with my prep and I'm waiting until the first person orders dessert, basically. So sometimes I would usually be cracking like cases of eggs in that time for like ice cream bases and stuff.
Nice.
But it was like as soon as the first like 10 maybe like 20 minutes after like the first main course went out, then I would
Mhm.
then I would get slammed. So it was definitely like like a ballet orchestra thing going on. It
It
was
is a
cool.
fun. I know that everyone wouldn't. I don't know that everyone would enjoy that, but having done it for as long as we've done, it has its appeal. Just the complete, just sometimes unbridled, even though technically it never would be, because how you have a set number of tables and a set number of people, it gets it. But having that excitement of that level of energy and activity, it's always appealing.
And it's all like, when you're in it, you're like, why am I doing this? But then when you're when you're done with it, you
That's
feel so accomplished. And then you're like, and that's when like, you go out and you celebrate a good service or whatever sometimes.
that's it.
Not all the time. But
That is a
I
fun.
used to love working New Year's Eve because we would have like a special menu for New Year's Eve and like the desserts were always cool. And
Yes, I do know. That's
but
fun.
also like being pastry, like a lot of times, everyone would be like, "Oh, good service," and I would be there, standing there for like an hour with the one server who was left, just waiting to see if they wanted dessert. You know what I mean? So everyone was already, going home or going out already, and I was still there waiting for this one table to order dessert. So I always like New Year's Eve because instead of everyone going home, even though I was still doing the last couple desserts, the chef would open like a couple bottles of champagne for the staff. So the
Nice.
party would start in the kitchen.
That's how it happens.
That
That's
was
how that
cool.
stuff happens.
Yep.
That's a good. The pastry side of it and that part of the world is a little bit. It's a different person that works in the pastry. It's a different type of person, not necessarily that they don't work well at other stations. There is definitely a different. It's always kind of a different breed of people that are
Well, I think
measuring and weighing.
it's not. It's a lot more. I feel like it's a lot more detail oriented. Like there's less
Yes,
room for error, so
that is correct.
you definitely get like well, there's a lot of like A-type personalities. And um, some of them aren't as fun as others, but
Yes, that's true.
yeah, they're so I always liked going over to the culinary side because it can only take so much.
Yeah, it is a definitely a, like you said a minute ago about it's a ballet or even just a performance. It seems to have to balance everybody in the room.
Did you work on the pastry stations or?
I did, I did. Now at the Charleston Place, I worked in the shop, so we would do all of the desserts for the entire hotel for all of the units of the hotel, and I would do prep for for when the Charleston Grill, like Emily Cookson, who's the chef, who she was executive pastry chef there for the Charleston Grill. I would work with her on her prep too. So in that instance, I never worked the line, which made it fun for me because I could do what I did, over a course of a day and make sure everybody had what they needed and not have to come back in until the next morning.
Oh yeah, that's you know. But the prep cook is like, it was also like in pastry, we had to do like both our prep and our, like we didn't have a prep cook
Mhm.
because you can't, you know, like chopping cases of onions is like one thing, but like you couldn't really say, hey, like bake this cake and don't fuck it up, you know, and make sure it's
Yeah,
level,
yeah,
you know, like
yeah. Get that. Hey, get that sugar ready as fast as you can. It's like, well, that's not exactly. I mean, Chris. I mean, none of our chefs would ever say anything like that. But if if there was someone else, expecting something that's not normally working with a pastry person, hurry up with that sugar, and try not to get any on you.
yeah, or like, you know, I mean, sometimes we would teach people stuff, but it would be like if they finished all their other prep work and they were looking for
Yeah.
something to do, you know, which was always good. But it was, you know, the prep cooks, they would work. Some of them would come in the morning and leave before you were there. So
Hmm.
you like would they would leave a list, but those prep cooks worked like three restaurants in one day, you know.
Yep.
So it's one of those, you know, one of those things I hope gets better now that we've kind of are going through this reset is how we pay people in the restaurant industry
Yeah.
because there's no reason you need to work. You should have to work, you know, 80 to 100 hours a week just to keep the lights on. Like, that's crazy, you know?
Yeah. It's going to get the more value that we bring to owners in that industry, the more value you can bring. I think that is where some of the balance is going to come. Is there's only so just like cutting the grass. There's only so much money you can pay somebody to cut grass, and all you can really do is increase the level of their tool, which makes them go faster, which makes them make less money. So I think that's a way that we are looking at the kitchens, where we're allowing people, based on the people that I'm seeing, the companies that I'm working with, all I would never say, even if I knew one, but not any owner that I have talked to has ever said, I think I'm just going to like screw over my people today. They're thinking of any possible way that they can do anything to keep them in some hours, to keep them doing some things. That's and I think that is part of what the reset is doing, is moving everybody closer to saying, okay, looks like, I'm paddling on this side of the boat and you may own the boat, but we gotta, we have to be able to give value that can be interpreted through a business result of, and of course, insert, whatever that happens to be, more sales, more products shown, higher efficiency in the kitchen. It's if we can ever figure that out, we'll be on the Joe Rogan show. Yeah, I mean, but that nobody's going to figure that out. Not in my lifetime anyway, because the variable that we don't count is it is actually people, and you
Yeah.
got no control
Yeah. Yeah. The
over the
bottom
people's. I
line,
mean,
and the people, it's a balance. But, yeah. So who you got coming up on the podcast?
who have I got coming up?
Yeah.
You're sweet to ask. I know that I've got. I think I just published George Moore, who's a longtime friend, pitmaster buddy of mine from Atlanta, and I have. You caught me on that question, because I normally don't talk about who's going to be on the show before they're on the show, because as soon as I say and then they're not on the show, then I'm a dorkfish. But I will tell you that the people that I know that are already booked, and we've already done some pre-work, are going to be primarily in the action focused person that's in the food business. Everybody that I'm talking to, I don't think I've had anybody coming up that's not in the food business that can't bring some value to other people that are in the food business, even if it's just from the action taking side, which I tend towards now. So, but that was a thoughtful question, and you got me, but I'm not going to say.
You got it. Well, I want everyone to go check out the podcast. So we got
You were very kind. You're very kind to think of that. I just know that with my chatterbox, I have to be very careful who I say, because sure enough, they're not on for some reason. Then I have to go back and say, Grace, I told a fib about that one. They're not coming on.
I mean, if anything, they'll just keep checking back,
I hope so.
But,
Well, I mean, hopefully you'll be on the show and I'll get to ask you questions. And I know not by the time you leave, but when you get back after you do your first training, you'll be able to jump on, and by that time I'll be able to finish another sentence or two.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to do like once I get like settled flying again, and like, earn more money, I'm trying to figure out how to make this setup portable so I could go and do these interviews in person. That's gonna be
so
a big goal.
I just bought, you can still see the blue tape on them.
Oh, the Rode mic.
And you see the blue tape. These are brand new out of the box. So this I chose, it was a bit of a stretch, but I chose to go with the Rode. I went with the Go 2. You see the little mic thing.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's probably backwards on the screen, but I chose the double. And so I can record on 2 channels, and they both also are clippable. This is the receiver. And they're both, ma'am?
I am so bad at the receiver and you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah. It was just the one I had before, but it just, like, it never worked. So maybe it was just a shitty quality one. But
yeah. Rode is the one, I chose to invest because so thank you for asking that question, because I think this will bring value. When I did the when I did the podcast with Steve, with Doug, the food guy, he was my pizzeria on that one, Doug was. And when I used one mic, and even though it's a mic that's properly set up to pick up 2 voices, his was much stronger, and I had kind of a my back. Okay. So yeah. I decided to invest in these. I'll let you know, I haven't used them yet. I just got them 2 days ago. For that very reason, so that you can add a lavalier mic. We can sit across from each other and still be able to hear, and be able to transmit it back to the laptop. So I'll let you know how that goes. And it's one that I probably put $700 in equipment in it. But that's so that from everything that I'm getting back from other podcasters, other people that are just talking for a living, that they can tolerate sound. I mean, they can tolerate images that are a little bit wonky, but the sound will send someone running. If you have a sound issue, it will send them running right away. So it's just interesting that I just opened that box, and so far it's pretty sporty.
Yeah, it looks nice. I'm trying to also figure out how to do the video on the road, which is probably going to be hard.
I don't know about that one. That one seems, just because of the lighting and all the other issues with it.
Yeah, we'll see.
Maybe do like we could do like kind of like the side lighting, kind of the cool, the kind of the cool lighting, and just say that you did it on purpose. But yeah, the video is going to be I don't know, maybe you can do a Zoom call across the table, just let them sit right there, and you could do the Zoom call across the table.
Actually, I tried to do that with like as a tester with my boyfriend, and the reverb is not great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can hear it.
Oh yeah.
But I'll figure it out. I'm thinking maybe but it seems like a lot of work. I don't know how, how like in other like podcasts where they're filming it, like it switches cameras and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's automatic or if that's like in the editing.
They do it. That it is done. I know that great. And just for a fellow, is an amazing guy named Craig DeVizio. It's he has a professional studio. He's a professional speaker. He's very well known. And when I went to his studio for the first time and saw how he had multiple cameras, and he has his laptop and he's switching between the cameras, and you can do that in post production, with the switching of the cameras.
Yeah.
But again, remember a minute ago when I told you about where people come from and how they got to where they are? This is about how I learned about the people that were in the supply chain procurement world, where it looks like one thing and it happens to be completely different than you thought. Filming and actually having a real studio was not at all, because of the lighting and the sound, and there's so many things that go on, including having multiple cameras, one that you look at, one that you're looking at the cameras, camera 2, camera 1. And just to finish on that, Craig trusted me to look at one of his scripts that he had, and it looked like literally like a damn movie, like camera 1, camera 2, and he had so many neat things. I was so impressed by how much stuff, how he invested in his studio. But he makes the work looks amazing.
So speaking of where people come from, so you're originally from South Carolina?
I am not. I was born and raised in Atlanta, which is in Georgia, and I immigrated to South Carolina about 20 years ago, I guess, 15 years ago.
What made you do the move?
My wife. She didn't make me do the move. That's because she was born and raised here in South Carolina. And when we had the opportunity, and I said, "Hey, where want to go?" She's like, "We're going to Charleston, back where things make sense." And so we came here then ever since. It's and growing up in Atlanta, which is a gigantic city already, not to even say now, but it was, I think growing up in a big city, moving to a small city was fun, kind of country mouse, city mouse sort of thing. And but that's how we came to South Carolina. It has been quite a ride. I love the state. Again, I guess people act towards you kind of how you act towards them. Just like people in New Jersey were real nice to me, probably I was nice to them too first.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much a good rule of thumb, is treat people how you want to be treated. You should do it.
That is
okay.
a little. I had to drop a little accidental wisdom in there, but I'm supposed to go to New York in like September, October, and I'm to New York City, so I'm kind of nervous about that because I'm probably going to be spotted the second I get off the plane. They're going to be like, "You're not from here, bro. Where are you from?"
I mean, probably, but New Yorkers, they get a rap for being rude and like mean, but it's really that there's so many people, and you know what I mean. Like you have to get from one place to the other. You don't have time to talk to anybody. It's really it's just like you're in a rush all the time. So, but most people are like, they're so nice, and like they find out, you're from a different place, and they'll be like, "Oh, come to my neighborhood, try the food," especially if you talk about food.
I like it. Well, that's obviously what. But I think Grace, that's a neat way to think about that. That pretty much, I think people are nice everywhere. I mean, pretty much everywhere they're nice. And if you're cranky, then they're probably cranky back.
Yeah.
But I'm never cranky, so I can't. That's just a theory for me.
I'm definitely cranky sometimes. That's
awesome.
I can't say I'm never cranky.
Okay. Yeah. See, I got you with that one. You're holding up a little bit on that one. God, cranky. That is fun stuff. So what are you doing next? You got to talk to Rocco next. Are you going to talk to him at another show in a little while?
Yeah, about 7:00. I'm gonna do that.
Nice.
So I'm excited because I know I got my bachelor's in pastry, so they didn't just like do pastry. Like I had to do culinary, and I also had to take wine. Although we focused on pretty much French wine and like origins. French wine. We went into Californian wine a little bit. We talked about, Prosecco, when we went into like this sparkling wine chapter and stuff like that. But the focus was mostly like, the regions of France and stuff. But it was such an interesting topic. And there's so much to know. And I hope, talking to him, we can kind of have, I didn't really get to have that like discussion about like the basics, I guess, like because so many people, they don't know how to read a wine label. They don't know,
They don't.
uh, they don't understand how, like, not to throw her under the bus, but like a couple weeks, what really like was like, I have to get a wine person on the podcast is like, I guess like my mom didn't never really thought about it, but like red wine, when you're making it, like when you juice the grapes, that's not red juice, And I was like, oh, I was like, yeah, it's from you steep the skin in the juice, and then it gets the red color and the tannins and stuff. So I was like, oh, that's why rosé is light pink. They just leave the skins in for less time. So yeah, so I was like, oh, I should probably get someone to talk about wine with on the podcast.
That's awesome. It's a good
So,
one. He's excited about it.
yeah, it's gonna be cool. So, and you don't get. I actually do know a couple of black male sommeliers, but you know, it's definitely a culture of you know people of Caucasian descent for the most part in America. So it would be good to share a different perspective because I think especially in those old school boys club type professions, even being a woman in wine is hard. So to be able to, um, like, I'm sure how he got into wine is not how, the professor that I learned about wine from got into wine. You know what I mean?
I think it's I think it's different when people come to something as a. I know people use the word passion a lot these days, but when you do something that you like and you like the thing that you're doing, it tends to promote itself. And
Yeah,
he happened
exactly.
to, like, run into a couple opportunities where he did some wine things and said, hey, dude, I kind of like this. And one of the things that when you ask about guests or when you talk about people is anyone that is truly interested in what they're talking about, it allows you to lose sight of, you don't have to see them. You don't have to know who they are. You don't have to know anything about them. You can enjoy someone that's like, hey, man, that person is passionate and enjoys what they're talking about. And you like it. I don't know if it's not necessarily for the entire conversation, but do look up blind, it's not blind interview, blind auditions where people go to an orchestra and you can't see the person playing. You don't know who they are. You just hear them playing.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
it is very cool. And that's part of one of the things I think that is allowing the massive movement we have towards listening to the music, not looking at the player.
So are you into orchestra music?
I don't know that I'm into it. I know I enjoy it. I know I enjoy that. I know I enjoyed that concept. I think I heard that on wasn't science. It was I think it was a podcast that I heard it on. I'll remember the next time we talk. But the fellow talked about when they started doing the blind interviews, meaning a physical blind was in front of them, and they started, not interviews, auditions, I guess is the best word to say it. Now you're thinking, okay, well, a person that's like 5'2" is not supposed to play the cello kind of thing. And then there's like a little 5'2" person with this gigantic cello, and they're like, oh, so you hit the notes, so you're winning. You're winning in that instance.
Yeah,
I know
that's really cool.
that was a kind of a left turn there, but it makes sense. I mean, when you talk to Rocco, you'll know that he
Well, it
comes
also
by.
gives opportunity just to like, have that your talent show through. And it
Yeah,
gets other people involved that wouldn't necessarily be involved. Even just I'm sure if they put like videos of that up with having the blind thing, I'm sure they have it. Like that in itself is like, it's also entertainment because you're like, who's behind the curtain? You know what I mean?
that is true. Yeah, there's plenty of them online. It is on the YouTubes. There's more than one where they do the blind auditions, and it's some of the some of the joy that you can get from hearing some of the sounds that come out. And then you see you would never guess that it was, a small French horn that was making all that noise. And then there was a person on the other end of the horn.
That's pretty.
It is cool. It's you gotta like something, I guess. So I guess I'm into orchestra stuff now. So, and now I'm gonna do the Pizzeria and French horn podcast next.
I mean, they go together. I love the horns. Like I love my brother is a musician, and we grew up.
Nice.
His best friend's father was the dean of jazz at the New School in New York City.
Okay.
So we grew up listening to all kinds of music because my dad was, when you have kids and the parents have to hang out together sometimes, but they wound up, liking each other. So they would listen to jazz music and hang out and then be like, you don't know who Miles Davis is, get over here. Like, you got to learn something. You know what I mean? So
always go back to the standards.
Yeah, exactly. So I tried to, at one point I tried to play the saxophone, but it didn't work out.
That's classic.
I'm not a music.
You get a t-shirt. I tried to play the saxophone, but it's a t-shirt. What are you gonna say? At least you tried. I mean, hell, most people are scared to try. At least you tried.
Yeah.
Did you still have the saxophone, or did you throw it away because you were mad because you couldn't play?
Well, really, what happened was in the I guess elementary school, I was the only one that picked the saxophone.
There we go.
Everyone else picked I don't know what they picked, the flute or the clarinet or something. So and in order to go to music class, you had to leave out of math class. So I was just too scared to raise my hand. I was the only person in my math class that had to go to music class. So I would just get too nervous to raise my hand and be like, I have to leave. You know what I mean? Because, the teacher's talking about math and homework and all this other stuff. And I wound up just not going to a couple of them. And then I was the only person in the class because it was a saxophone. So they just wind up giving up on me, I guess. But
I can imagine. Miss Johnson, can you send Grace down to the music room? She's supposed to be in here right now. We need a saxophone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't
over math. Math and music, really? Math and music, are they even related in any way?
Yeah, 100%. But
well, that's what I was saying. I don't get the connection there. It's I'm scared. That's but hey, that's what at least you got to play for a little bit. Did you stay in math? Did you stay in your math class and become a math professor?
That was required. You know what I mean?
Oh.
But that teacher didn't like me because
Did you play the saxophone?
No, because I told her, she was telling the class that well, she was telling teachers don't for the most part, they don't like to be challenged by their students. And I was never the bad, I was never the class clown or anything. But my parents raised me that you should always have the correct information, try your best for the truth. Don't, even try not to be rude, but you want to tell the truth. So it's fifth grade, and the teacher started telling the class that a straight line was the fastest way to get anywhere. And I disagreed with her because my father was a private pilot. So he used to sit us down and have these long discussions about math and science and ask us, just to I think it was more for his entertainment of the answers we came up with.
That's fun.
we used to have a globe, and he was telling me, you would think a straight line is the fastest way to get anywhere before I took this class in school. But when you're on a sphere, the fastest way to get somewhere is to go up and then come down, because then you're going towards the circumference that's smaller and then coming back down. So it's actually a shorter distance than if you were to follow the equator across the ocean, because it's wider. So I understood this concept, but I could not in that moment, because she got so mad at me. Like, she snapped at me. She's like, "No, it's not." I was like, "But no, you're wrong." Like, I was like, "You're wrong. Like, that's not correct." So she sent me to the principal's office, and then they called my parents, and my father was like, "Well, she's right. Like, your teacher's wrong." And then my father came in with the aeronautical. Before it, like, now it's all in computers and stuff, but this was like, maybe early 2000s. So he came in with all the maps of how pilots plot out their course and everything with air traffic control, and showed the class that, like, no, actually, it's the straightest way. It's like the fastest way to get there on a flat plane, but not, on a sphere. And she didn't call on me for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping she sent you out to go to saxophone class. So if you're gonna sass, well, at least your dad stood up for you. That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I don't know if that proves that maybe she believes that the Earth is flat. Maybe because it would be a straight line.
Oh, maybe she's one of those.
Yeah, I don't. That was meant for comedy.
I mean, I know a couple.
I wasn't trying to say
she was. I'm in Florida, so I know a couple of those.
Yeah. But Florida's straight. It's a straight line. Florida.
Yeah, maybe that's why. Because, like, the only mountain in Florida is the garbage dump.
That's comedy. That's comedy gold right there, Grace.
And truth.
You should record that one. You should record that as a podcast on its own. The straight line. How to get from the saxophone to the dump.
Yep.
That's fun. I'm sorry that your teacher sassed you like that, but
it's a fun story.
At least your dad stood up for you. That's cool. And brought his maps. I bet that was awesome. Watching your teacher get whomped.
Yeah, that was fun.
That's some. You should stitch that one. That's comedy right there. Rousing a teacher. Just don't say her name, because she's probably listening to this podcast. She's on a plane.
She remembers who I am, probably.
Oh, she remembers the sassy one about the straight line. She probably talked about it for 20 years. Remember that time that girl Grace said it's a straight line? That is fun.
So do you play any instruments or no?
That's a bizarre question, but yes. So yes, I do.
What instrument do you play?
I started with the banjo first, and I play guitar, mandolin. Those three mainly. Don't play much anymore now that I'm a grown up.
Is a banjo something most people in Atlanta start with, or no?
I started only just since you asked. I started because of Steve Martin. I saw a Steve Martin video when I was like 10 years old, 11, 12, I don't know. And it was funny. I had the album. I don't remember if it was Let's Get Small. I can't remember what it was, but it's one where he's got the ears, the arrow through the head, the banjo. And so I started playing, and I just loved it and played for many, many years. It paid for itself. It was fun.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. It's a very cool instrument. It gets strange looks sometimes, because you've seen the shirts like paddle faster, I hear banjo music and all that sort of stuff. But I am
I don't. I do not see the shirts.
Well, I will send you a text of the shirt. There is I'll just send you there's no more to talk about that. It is comedy. When you see it, you will laugh. I guarantee you will laugh over that one. That's kind of the whole deliverance thing. You guys probably don't pick up on that in Florida or New Jersey.
Maybe not. I don't know. Not me.
Yeah, just don't watch the movie. I'm not recommending. Do not watch the movie. Just go for the fun of it. Just go for the comedy gold and know that it's funny, but you don't want to know why it's funny. That's comedy.
That's comedy. So everyone loves to laugh. So
when you see the shirt, you've heard. I mean, everybody has heard the Deliverance. You know, the dueling banjos from the Deliverance. Everyone. I think you actually have to listen to that before you graduate from high school. You have to listen to it at least once. And the Devil Went Down to Georgia, I guess, too. But
I don't know what the Deliverance is. I don't know.
Okay, it's probably best. It's probably best that you don't. It's a weird movie.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah,
I will know. By the time I come on your show, I'll be like,
you will be, and you will. Yeah, if you're still talking to me after you watch the movie. It's got some good stuff. It's got Burt Reynolds. It's got some funny people, and there's some funny scenes, and there's some not funny scenes. It's not PG-13. It's not even PG-40, I think. Some parts. You can fast forward through the parts. The banjo music part, you'll get it. Promise.
Okay.
It'll be funny.
So got a segue from that one, huh?
I don't know how. I got nothing. I don't have my banjo's not in here, so I can't even like rip it out and play something. No, it's just an old movie. It's an old funny movie. That's all it is. Well, you got to look. Okay, you got to look up the song "Dueling Banjos" and watch it. Just watch "Dueling Banjos" from Deliverance and watch it, and that'll be all you'll ever need to see of the movie.
Okay. Well, I mean, of course I'm gonna watch the movie because you're telling me not to watch the movie.
And I probably did it wrong. I probably did it the wrong way, but everyone that's listening right now is cringing that you're thinking that. So,
or they're going, I wonder what that is.
Everybody knows. If you know, you know, right? If you know, you know on that one.
So, we'll just we'll blame Enzo.
So I derailed. I was able to derail everything with that conversation. So that's good. You can cut that part out if you want to, just to avoid that goofiness.
So, do you plan? You had the first episode in a coffee shop. Do you plan on? You got the road mic. So, are you traveling to any interesting places soon?
Yes. I will. I think that I say always. That underlying sound that was in even though it's really kind of hard to hear the first one with the stroopwafel. But it did have there was a kind of a cool sound behind it. That you could kind of hear people moving and talking, and I felt like it was an environment that was good. And we were actually live in the restaurant when I did Steve Toniello. We were live in the restaurant.
Okay.
And so you could hear people that aren't used to that sound, that haven't ever been listened to a restaurant sound. It has a very interesting almost like a background noise to it that is kind of gives
and clanging and
dishes clinking, and it was kind of fun. So I don't have any place that I'm traveling long distance anytime soon, but with having these mics, it'll allow me to be a little bit different. We can actually, the cool thing about this is that they are portable. They are completely charged. Have like something ridiculous, like 6-8 hours on them. So I'll be able to walk with people and be able to talk to them while we're walking. Both of us have a mic and be able to, have it on 2 different channels and then merge them together, once I set the sound. But I do intend to record it.
If you could go to anywhere in the world to go learn about their food right now, where would you go?
I have become very interested in and I'm going to say cultural food is not really a fair way to say it, is kind of the Argentina, even though that's a very big country, there's many things. We have some friends that are from Argentina, and they made empanadas. And we had other people that were from other parts of South America, and the empanadas, like, oh, you're not supposed to put onions in there. You're supposed to put peppers in there. And we realized that almost like every single town has their own empanada. So there's like not even a thing. The other one is Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico has a sauce. It's kind of a hot sauce. It's kind of this vinegar pepper sauce that it's called PK. It's just like a PIQUE. And that's the best I can pronounce it with my accent. And every single household has their own sauce. It's kind of a long. The other one that I really have kind of recently, kind of the Philippines, kind of that sub-Asia, because they use a lot of coconut milks and a lot of other fruits and vegetables in their dining that have. I went and ate with a person he was a sushi chef. That's hard to say, from the Philippines. And he invited me to eat with him, and he wanted to fix what I wanted, and I wanted to eat what he was going to eat for dinner, and couldn't tell you any of the stuff that we ate, but it was amazing texturally. A lot of peanuts, a lot of coconut oils that we ate. Some interesting noodles, but that's the kind of the place. I guess that's maybe that lower, Argentina around to. The lower. The
empanada thing, like, is so true. Like, every country has their own empanada, and here in South Florida, like, you have a lot of Cubans, you have a lot of Colombians, you have Venezuelans, you have Ecuadorians, you got a lot of people from South America, and one of my favorite things to do is go to these little Latin cafes and try all the different empanadas, because, sometimes it's like this almost like flatter, like, dough. And then sometimes it's more like a puff pastry. And then sometimes it's got the Colombian beef one is really good. It's got ground beef, some kind of olive, peppers, and this like, I still don't know what kind of cheese it is, but it's like always cut in like perfect white cubes. It's so good. So, and then even Puerto Rico, like, everyone's got their own empanada, and I also love making empanadas. They're delicious. Yeah. And guava cheese pastries are so good.
They definitely are. We have, so one of the guys I'm doing we play tennis together. It's a good buddy of mine. I'm just helping him. He's opening a restaurant, a fish and chips restaurant, and he wants to have called a Cornish. It's either
pasty.
Yeah, pasty. Okay.
Yeah.
And he was like trying to describe it, and I was like, said it sounds like you're describing an empanada. I mean, that's what it sounds like. And it sounds like an empanada. And then when I looked at it and saw what was in it, I was like, dude, that's a beef pot pie, man. That's just a handheld beef pot pie. You just like you pulled it out of the damn dish, folded it up and crimped it. That's not. So anyway, so we've had so I guess empanadas are one of those things that everybody eats across the world. Some sort of handheld bread.
Yeah. Everyone has some kind of like dough pocket food, because if you had to go somewhere, there wasn't a lot of refrigeration, you had to cook something, it had to be portable. So I remember when I first found out about empanadas, I was like, oh, it's a Cornish pasty.
That's it.
So, because my family, part of my family is Scottish, so they have their own versions of the Cornish pasty, but I started making Cornish pasties, but with Latin fillings. And then the Latin people were like, wow, I really like this dough that you're using, instead of like in that area, they were using the thinner one, that not flaky one. But it really depends on, the filling and stuff. I love empanadas though. Oh man.
Yeah. Well, so it's the one thing I think eating. And Doug, I regret whether I remember if Doug told this story, but he had the good fortune. When you talk to him, he'll tell you, because he's got some very cool things that happened. One of them was he welcomed a family from, I think it was from Korea. Doesn't matter if it was, but they did not speak English at all. And when they came to have dinner together, there was literally no verbal communication other than, I guess, whatever you could say, like nod or universal symbols of, I don't like olives. I don't know if that's a thing. And even though I do love olives. And so he said that, that when they had some time together where they, from a ministry standpoint, where they were reading, but their Bible was completely in their language. Couldn't know, it was obviously Korean or whatever it was, and English. And he said that the neat thing about it was that when they were reading from scriptures, even though they didn't know what the words were, from them saying them, they had a corresponding, part in their Bible.
Translation, yeah.
Yeah, and it was neat that. So the reason I was talking about that was that, there's two things that people, I'm gonna say one big thing that people are always going to come together over is eating dinner. People will, you don't have to be able to talk to someone. You could say to someone, here's a sandwich. And like, I don't know what the hell he's saying, but I'm probably going to eat it. So so that is one of the secret things that I love about food, is that I can start a conversation with any person in the world over a sandwich.
Oh yeah. And I love,
and not even have to talk to them.
Yeah. And that's like the best for when you're traveling too. Like if you don't, especially if you're traveling alone, the best thing to do is to go to some place that kind of has like bar seating, or like there's a lot of food halls in Europe and stuff like that where it's communal seating. So, you sit down or you order something that like, you think you know what it is, maybe. But then when you go and you sit down, like order something small, like ordering an appetizer, and then you sit down with like your beer or whatever, and then you look around at everybody else's plates and you just start being the obnoxious American, and you go,
nice.
Hey, what is that? You know what I mean? And most people are nice. So most people will tell you, and then, you'll ask them about it, and then they'll start telling you about how their grandma makes a better one. And like,
that's the truth.
You get invited over for dinner.
That's the thing. It's like, are you gonna eat the rest of that? Can I try that? It's like, no, you order your own. That's how we do it.
Oh, come over for dinner. But at least I know what sometimes the hard part is like, I want that, but I have no idea which one it is on the menu. You know what I mean? So that's always cool. And then, especially when you go someplace with like an open kitchen, you can talk to the people working in the kitchen, and sometimes they'll, people like it when you're interested. You know what I mean? So
they do.
As long as they're not super busy, then they'll tell you about it. They're proud of, especially chefs, like it's a craft, so of course they're going to want to tell you about their craft, or they wouldn't want to open a restaurant.
Yeah, that's the plain truth. Besides being crazy and opening a restaurant.
Yeah.
There's still a universal appeal to.
Have you been to Puerto Rico yet?
No, I have not.
So besides the piqué, the ropa vieja, you got to get some of that.
Okay.
It is, I guess it's almost like, how you have pulled pork. It's almost like a pulled stewed beef. It's really good.
Oh, okay.
So good. But then you put some of the piqué on top sometimes.
There we go. That is it. I have, once I started putting that on, we have a thing called pepper vinegar here, which is just peppers in vinegar. So it's very similar. It doesn't have the pineapple or other peppers in it like the piqué does. But once I tasted it, it's like, now if I'm anywhere, I know I'm comfortable. If I see that, I know I can eat that. It's going to be delicious.
Do you grow a garden or anything?
I do not. I do not. I have never had. Now, my wife will grow a garden. We're not in garden season right now.
Oh, well, you get to, I mean, same thing. You get to see the food grow and eat it. You just don't have to do the work then.
That is, yes. I like I like having someone else grow it and I make it into something delicious or more
So
delicious.
what I was gonna say was, being interested in, the Philippine cuisines and the Asian cuisines. A lot of the things that they actually cook over there is very hard to come by here, depending on where you are. So getting like some seeds for like the specific eggplant or pepper, it's pretty cool to grow it and then taste it and be like, oh well, this is how is this different from like the American eggplant or the Italian eggplant or so. It's a lot of fun. I do that on my porch. I have a bunch of
that's cool.
buckets on my patio. So
Having something authentic, people want authentic. They want to taste, that kind of the walk in the footsteps sort of idea. They want to taste the way something tastes. And we, in any number of discussions, you could be talking to about an eggplant. You say, oh, well, this is eggplant. I don't like eggplant. This is how you eat eggplant. Eggplant Parmigiana. That's it. That's the only way to make it. And then you come to find out there's, multiple other types of eggplants and everybody doesn't fry it. Everybody and people an allure to going to other countries to study their food. That would be what I'd be all in for. Just authentically, what are they making that is created during that period that they're cooking, meaning that they don't have tomatoes. You don't have tomatoes in February here. You don't have them, but of course they get grown in other places and shipped here. But I think that would be something that kind of looping back to your question. I think that would be something I would be most wanting to do is study the authenticity. But then again, I could go one town down and they're like, you're not supposed to put onions in empanadas. And then they're all mad at me because I was in Rio by accident. Even though I know that's not in Argentina, just so you know, I just was. I couldn't think of a big country. I mean, I couldn't think of a big city to end up in South America other than Rio. That would be that.
Yeah, I mean, there's always. I think it's so funny too when you say like authentically something because usually the authenticity factor, it doesn't come from like or like why a food is that way. It usually comes from just what's available. It's not like. So then people get stuck in like these traditions. Oh, that's not traditional. And, I'm definitely, it's definitely one of my favorite things to do is find out the history of the food. But it does drive me a little nuts when people are like, well, that's not traditional. I'm like, as long as it tastes good, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I can imagine coming in after, whatever time period is coming after a hard day at work, coming in saying, honey, I'm not going to eat that because it's not traditional. It's like, no, you're going to eat and you're going to be like, Lord, thank you for this food that's not traditional. It's going to be stuffed into my belly in a couple of minutes. So that's almost that's the dogma of always and never. People we always do it this way or we never do it that way. It's always done that way. Say, well, go one town over. That could be our new thing. Go one town over. And it ain't gonna be, because even laughing like barbecue here, the barbecue here in the what we call the Low Country is different than it is up in North Carolina. I mean, not even remotely the same.
What is the difference?
The methods of preparation and sauce.
Okay.
Where you'll have here down in the Low Country, we'll have from a mustard-based barbecue sauce. And just so you know, this type of discussion right here will start. If you ever want to start a discussion with anybody, that you will not necessarily get an argument, but it will cause arguments. Is about barbecue. Yeah, and then you go into North Carolina and they, just dump vinegar and pepper on it, which not really. It's actually amazing, but they have different ways of basting it. And there's a constant battle all the way around the Southeast of what is barbecue, when again it goes back to the question you said about what's authentic. Okay, well, go one town over, go from here to Hemingway and it's going to be different. Go from Hemingway to Columbia, it's going to be different.
And when
Like
the
the
people
barbecue
were
in West
making
Palm.
like, the thing is too, like when the people were making like, the people that made the authentic, like they weren't trying to do that. They were just like, oh, we do this because it tastes good and
Yeah,
we got all the ingredients. You know what I mean?
we're hungry. Yeah, and
And
we're
we're hungry.
hungry.
You know,
Yeah.
like I'm sure they weren't opposed to, you know, what the innovators of that, they were into making new things. So I'm sure they were in like, this is all right. We made it. That's it. It's staying like this forever.
Yeah, it's
Done.
authentic.
Authentic.
Yeah, so that's, well, if really somebody really wanted to do that, they would try that. And I don't remember the name, but there is a protection, like an international protection for a product that's from an area, like champagne
Oh yeah.
is one of those. You're not allowed, like the Cornish pasty, whatever it is technically the only person that can call it that is from Cornwall. That's
Yep.
what it has to be done there. Whether that's correct or not, I'm not sure. But when I was reading about it, it said that there is an international protection for why you don't have champagne from Italy. You don't have champagne from California. Sparkly grapes.
Wine. Yep.
I think they should call it sparkly grapes. I think it sounds better than sparkly wine.
I'm still like, I'm sure I've said this enough on the podcast that like someone's gonna steal my idea. But I think if you started selling dried grapes or dehydrated grapes in the Whole Foods, you would make so much money.
Yeah.
right next to the raisins. Right next to the raisins.
That's it. It's like
charge them like $3 extra.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. So why don't we take the grapes? We can make the wine and then dehydrate the wine and make them into grape shapes. And when you get to your party, you just drop them in your water and you got.
Well, I think that alcohol, I don't know, you might have to go look up the recipe in the Bible for that one, because I think the alcohol wouldn't stay in the dried grape.
Well, I mean, there was a time we could have freeze-dried alcohol. It could be a thing, man. We could be on. Will the
alcohol stay in there? Will it stay
I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe make it a tincture, like a grape wine tincture.
Oh man, that would sell.
I think so. We should try it. Yeah, no time.
Think more about it.
Some more comedy there. More comedy, tincture comedy.
Tincture comedy. It would work. It's all about branding, right? It's all about marketing.
It is. Grace, we have wandered over quite a range of topics.
Yeah, I gotta get going soon because I gotta download this one and get ready for the next one.
No, let's get ready to So good luck downloading this craziness. It's gonna be stuck in your head. You'll be thinking, what the hell was he talking about?
Yeah, I'll ask Rico about it.
Yes, I like it.
I think we can do this. I was talking about.
That's it. Let's do it. See, but somebody had to have the idea first.
Yeah, and I love doing this kind of stuff because it's like a giant group think, like
it is.
We were joking around, but maybe there's a little nugget of gold in there. You never know.
That's how it works. Next thing you know, we'll be putting meat inside pastries. I like the idea. We could call them empanadas. That's a good name.
Maybe Enzo nadas. We'll change it a little bit.
Let's start telling everybody that we actually created empanadas on this actual report. That's what I'm going to tell everybody when I talk to them. Grace, you're awesome. I appreciate you so much catching up. I hope you have had as much fun as I have.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
It was fun. It was fun to do. I appreciate you asking, and I look forward to I hope you have if we don't talk between now and then, I hope you have an amazing, safe training and that it all goes well.
Thanks.
And that you'll be ready to jump on the podcast on the Pizzeria and Enzo show when you get back.
I'm excited.
We have to eat some. We have to eat something though. On my show, you have to eat, so we have to think of what to eat. Maybe we'll have empanadas.
Yeah, sure. Or
And we
I
have
was thinking pizza, but I like
oh,
both.
sure, pizzas.
Or, the pizza empanada, which is also known as a calzone. There
I
we go.
think. See,
There you go.
see how I just almost brought tears to my eyes there. Pizza inside an empanada. I think it's a great idea.
All right.
That's crazy.
So thanks for listening to the Chef Grace's Place podcast, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.